I need to put foot to work.
Okay, we are going to draw the islands of the Pacific, Polynesia, Melanesia, Micronesia. For this, we're actually going to fold our paper. We're going to have the landscape paper, and we're going to actually fold it in thirds. Okay? So if you can fold your paper in thirds or try to mark it roughly in thirds.
So landscape in third, like a letter?
Yeah, that landscape.
The landscape. You got that thing?
It's like folding long ways, okay?
Yep.
I just got the landscape part down. Oh, gosh. You got the folding part down?
Folding my paper in thirds.
Thirds.
Okay, so we're folding stuff in thirds.
It's the wrong way. There you go. No, not wrong line. Hayden, that's an ass.
Thirds.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I didn't know if we were going to be folding in thirds.
you guys are funny.
Sorry.
All right, the very top of our paper, up here, right, this is going to be the Tropic of what?
Cancer.
Cancer.
Oh.
This one is going to be the Tropic of Capricorn. Nope, this one's the equator. This one is going to be
Tropic of Capricorn.
okay.
Tropic of Capricorn.
Okay. Now, we're going to pretend like this is the middle of my paper, so if you want to fold your paper in half portrait size, this is going to represent the 180th parallel. Does anyone know what the 180th parallel is also known as?
Nope.
Well, if the prime meridian is 0, all the way over in Europe and Africa, this is the other side of the globe. Prime meridian is 0. This is the international date line. Has anyone heard of that?
What is that?
The international date line is the point at which the day shifts. So as we go around the globe, we have to switch from one day to another, right?
Yeah.
So on this side, and we're over here, we're actually one of the last countries to have a New Year's, is one day, and this is the next day of the week. So today is Wednesday, but in Australia, it's Thursday.
In
So-
Australia, when it's their Christmas, it's like on December 26th.
It's true. When they have Christmas, we're having Christmas Eve. We're almost a day behind them.
Oh.
So there are some people that like to take cruise ships out here and celebrate New Year's, and then move a couple hundred miles and then celebrate New Year's in another 24 hours.
They have a
It's
2-day
a
celebration.
Okay. So, like I said, this is one of those situations where we don't have borders so much as we have
Lines.
We have lines on a.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
Thank you, dear. Okay, so along here on this equator, we're going to start with the Federated States of Micronesia. So we're going to go along the equator. We're going to go up about halfway. We're going to go over, not quite as far, down, and like this. Okay? Does that make sense? So you're making a pentagon. I think, yeah, truck works.
Yeah, you're making a semi-truck.
A truck, okay.
A semi-truck.
So these are the federated
It's so long.
the islands with here are part of the Federated States of Micronesia. Okay? And then over here, we're going to make a square that doesn't come quite down to the equator. And this is Pulau. Sorry, Palu.
Sorry for the Palu.
Yes. This is one area of the world that I am much weaker at, so I hereby apologize to everybody that I'm just going to tick off because I'm getting it wrong. I'm doing my best here.
I'm just playing island.
Okay. Well, Palu, according to our map, actually has a bigger island and several smaller islands.
Like Hawaii?
I don't know if it's formed the same way. And then Micronesia has several islands kind of going in a line along here.
I just put islands in.
Now, up above, up here, we have a curved line, dot, 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 dot. You see how it's kind of like a curve here? So a curved line of islands, and then the biggest island is at the bottom, and it's outside that box. The reason is, inside the box is the Marianas Islands.
And the Mariana Trench.
And the Mariana Trench, very good. But the largest and southernmost of those islands does not belong to the Marianas Islands because it belongs to the United States. This is the island of Guam.
Oh.
Guam.
This means that the Marianas Trench goes along out here. So geographically, geologically, in terms of ecology, Guam belongs to the Marianas Island chain. In terms of geography, where we draw state and capital lines, Guam belongs to the United States, not to the Marianas Islands.
So, U.S. has 50 states and 6 territories, I believe.
Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, American Samoa. I'm not certain I've got them all, but we do have a number of far-flung territories. This is one. Okay. Having gotten this far, we're going to return a bit and put up the Marshall Islands. So the Marshall Islands, starting at this corner of the truck, I like that. We're going to go north until almost as tall as Marianas. Over, through the 180th parallel, down as far as this, and this is the Marshall Islands. Now my paper is, my board is wider than your paper, so go by your midline. This is the Marshall Island chain. Okay, so go up to the bottom of the Marianas Island box, over past the 180th, and then down to a line parallel to where the truck
It's an
comes.
upside down truck on top of the truck.
Okay, it's an upside down truck on top of the truck. I can live with that.
Ah.
A truck got flipped and then now it's heading into another truck.
And the Marshall Islands. It is not that funny. The Marshall Islands kind of come along like that. Okay. Now we're going to do the small state of Nauru. So we're going to put a small box underneath Micronesia. Okay, Nauru.
I think
Okay, the Solomon Islands are next. So we're going to go back this way, take a 45-degree line down to just under, oh, that's a midline, okay, down to just here, so we're about halfway between the equator and the tropic of Capricorn. Capricorn. That's terrible. In. Take Take a tiny jog down over. Okay? Now we're going to go under the Nauru box. Going to make a little angle. And then we're going to angle up to the Nauru box. Do you see that? So straight out, 45 degrees down, straight down, over, jog down, straight back to just under the Nauru box. A little angle out and a little angle back. Solomon Islands. Okay. Solomon Islands kind of go like,
Ella just went outside. I heard
Yeah, I know.
Brianna say
we
Ella.
all heard it. Okay. This little jog here, we're going to drop down, okay? Over to about halfway along this line here. So we got the Solomon Islands straight line in the bottom. We're going to go halfway along it. We're going to drop 45 degrees over to about where these line up. You see that? And we're going to go straight up and angle back. And this is Vanuatu. If I can remember correctly, Vanuatu actually is petitioning for things about global warming because their islands are relatively low to the ocean, and the fear is if the oceans rise due to global warming, Vanuatu will be swallowed and the people will therefore be homeless completely. Okay, so we started Federated States of Micronesia, Palau, Marianas Islands, Marshall Islands, Nauru, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu.
Is there just a
Okay.
Is there not? Is there like a regular? I don't remember. Regular of Mariatsu. Yeah.
Of what?
Is there just a Mariatsu?
Mariatsu.
Yeah. The other than the Federated States of Mariatsu.
Micronesia?
Oh, Micronesia.
Okay. Micronesia is, from what I understand, it's the Federated States of Micronesia, Palau, Marianas Islands, and Marshall Islands. Micronesia. These would be part of Melanesia. Okay, so we're going to take this angle and we're going to bring it up about halfway to this line. Okay? And then we're going to, we'll have to adjust that angle, but you guys shouldn't have to. It should come fairly close to, but not crossing the 180th parallel. Straight down to Vanuatu, and then over, crossing the 180th parallel, down to Tropic of Capricorn, back over to the straight part of Vanuatu. This is the island cluster of Fiji. So if you've ever wondered where Fiji is, there it is. Okay, and right on the 180th parallel, there is a larger cluster of islands that make the Fiji chain. Because I have this gap here, because this is so much wider, it's going to be a little different for you guys than for me. Don't worry about it.
Can you hold that pause for a second?
Okay, so that's Fiji.
Okay.
We're going to take this box and we're going to extend it out. Okay, so out here, little tiny jog over, straight down, and then back along the Tropic of Capricorn. This area is Tonga.
It looks like New Mexico.
I suppose it does.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a backwards New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now, in order to draw the rest of this, we are going to have to draw Kiribati, and here I am now flying without any sort of instructions. So here we go. From the corner of the Marshall Chain out here, we're going to go on a 40 Marshall Islands. Oops, I made a boo-boo. Marshall Islands ends in front of the international date line. See, this is the whole thing about making boo-boos and learning, right? We are going to make a diagonal line going across both the equator and the 180th parallel. And then we're going to go down along underneath the equator. We're going to get not quite 1/4 of the way through. We're going to go down and over. And then at 1/4 of the way across this quarter, we're going to go up past the equator. And then we're going to go backtrack, up, over, and a steep diagonal. This is all one region, one Kiribati. Okay, once we have to take this diagonal line below this line here. Going to drop down to make a shallow box. The box does not come all the way back to here. Then we go straight back past that weird jog almost to the 180th parallel. And then we're going to come up and we're going to take a straight line back to the junction of Nauru and the Solomon Islands. This whole thing is called Kiribati.
This looks like a hammer.
It does.
That
Here's
is
the way
kind of
to
like the hammer. The hammer of Kiribati.
And I am sorry to say I did not have enough time to look up what Kiribati or any of these mean in their native languages. So there's a chain
Give us a
here,
map
there's
next
a
week.
cluster here, and there's a few islands out here. And when we start talking about the international date line, this thing causes the deviation, as you will see.
Why?
You'll see. Okay, so now we're gonna take Tuvalu out of here. So Tuvalu comes in past this long line down here at the southern part of Kiribati, and it goes and junctions here with this vertical line of Fiji. So this whole region is Tuvalu. So with 2 extra lines, we can make a whole region. Mm-hmm.
What's the islands in Tuvalu?
The island, you would ask that. There are several islands in Tuvalu. Beyond that, I don't know. The Tuvalu Islands appear to run. I've got like 3 maps open here. Like that. All right, dropping straight down from Tuvalu is a strange little thing considering all the rest of these, is Talus, Wallis, and Fortuna Islands.
Are we in Polynesia now?
Yes.
Okay. Fiji.
These belong to France. Okay. Starting a line midway up the Tuvalu. See there? We're going to go, and we're going to make a big box coming out, coming down, and then touching in this funny little New Mexico jog on Tonga. And once we do that, we're going to take this border of Tonga, straighten it, and push it over. On this side, we have Samoa. And on this side, we have American Samoa.
I'm guessing the American Samoa belongs to us.
It belongs to the United States, yes. Then 1, 2, 3.
I'm so sorry for these countries, and
Why?
I think I'm butchering their shapes.
Oh yeah, we're butchering the shapes. Now you guys have a shorter, so it's not as long and skinny on mine, but if you want to do this one, this is To, Ke, Lau.
Kokela?
Dropping straight down from this weird hammer thing on Kiribati. These are the Cook Islands.
James Cook.
I believe so. Okay, from this corner of the isle of this, we come out and we drop down below the Tropic of Capricorn. And then we're kind of making this funny pentagon. This region is French Polynesia.
I'm guessing France owns that.
I believe they still do. Yep, Cook Islands are owned by New Zealand, French Polynesia, and there's also, Niue. I take it back. Niue is here, Cook Islands are here. And French Polynesia are a ton of islands generally running northeast to southwest. But there's a lot of islands in here. Okay. If you make an arrow pointing west, down below French Polynesia, Easter Island,
Easter Island.
you know, the one with the big heads, that will be further east along this parallel.
Is that like is that something they do for Easter, like make big heads?
No, we don't know why they did it. It was named Easter Island because the explorer who found it, and I don't remember if it was Magellan or Cook or someone else, found it on Easter morning. So he named it Easter Island. Okay, if we go along the equator, further east you will find Galapagos. Of turtles and Darwin fame.
There's a
Okay.
Galapagos seal too.
If we drop a straight line from Vanuatu down to the Capricorns, this will be the islands of New Caledonia. Anyone want to know where Hawaii is?
Yes.
Okay, you take this corner of Kiribati and you go north almost, and it goes right under the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, to finish this off, over in this sector, we are going to have Papua New Guinea,
Papua New
So right
Guinea and
along with the islands of there. So this is Papua New Guinea. And that means down here,
wow.
we have Australia.
And Antarctica. What?
And down here, right on this side of the international date line, we have New Zealand.
When are we gonna find out why that thing caused us so much trouble?
Okay, so these are our country borders, and they're usually done, as I understand it, by common cultures. So as the peoples moved out, very good. Okay, so a few things to note. The international date line. It does run down the 180th parallel until you get to Kiribati. Now take a look at this. Kiribati, look at how long it is.
Yeah.
So to have half of Kiribati be on one day and half of it be on the other day was just going to be a pain. So they had a choice to make. They could either be one of the last people to experience something or one of the first. Which do you think they chose? First. So the international date line, when it hits this angled sign of Kiribati, goes around Kiribati. Whee! Okay?
And I finished the line.
Until recently, it changed. Samoa decided Samoa has closer trading agreements with Australia than it does anybody in the Western Hemisphere. So Samoa elected to move the international date line to put them over here. So they went to bed on December 29th and woke up on December 31st just because they decided to. Okay? And then that drops straight down through Tonga. And to keep New Zealand with its closest trading partner, Australia, it drops straight down here. And then south of New Zealand is back to the 180th parallel proper. Okay, the few things that we have in here. Obviously over here we have the Pacific Ocean. Do I have a dark blue? Here we go. So Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean. Oh my gosh, you can hear them doing Rite of Spring in the other room. Okay, this region here between New Caledonia and Australia is called the Coral Sea. There is a very famous and important World War II battle that takes place in the Coral Sea, which tells you how far the Japanese had gotten from Japan way up here. They'd actually gotten all the way down here, and when the Allies started to fight back, this is one of the very first famous battles, the Battle of the Coral Sea.
What's this called again?
Hmm?
International Dateline.
The International Dateline. How about we do International Date Line. There. Okay, and then of course we also have here the Marianas Trench. Anyone remember what is unique about the Marianas Trench?
That's the world's deepest part of the ocean.
It is the deepest part of the ocean. Challenger Deep is actually, I understand, just here near Guam. And that is the deepest known part of the ocean. We know less about our ocean floors than we do about space. So if you are
Space is not even here.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Pacific Ocean, Cancer Tropic, okay.
All right, so that's pretty much it. How do you guys feel about this week?
Good. Pretty good.
Okay, I would recommend, I will send you the map that I used to draw this. I would also recommend opening up one of your books and taking a look at the distribution of islands. There are a lot of, anyone here heard of the Ring of Fire in the Pacific Ocean? So that runs through here too. A lot of these islands are caused by very small plates moving back and forth. So some of these are volcanic or were volcanic, which does make the soil very fertile.
Fertile?
Mm-hmm. Volcanic soil is extremely fertile. The downside to a volcanic soil being fertile, however, is of course, the volcano that comes along with it. But that's why we have things like, like Pompeii. That's why Pompeii and Herculaneum were there. When Vesuvius blew up, it buried them. Well, today we still have people living in the region of in the region of Mount Vesuvius, and that's one of the reasons why Mount Vesuvius is one of the most watched volcanoes on the planet. Because if it blows, it's going to kill a couple million people who live there still. So let's see. Pacific, Indian, North Pacific, Coral Sea, I think. We had the Tasman Sea, but that was from last week. I think that is everything. How do you guys feel?
Good.
Think you can do this?
Yes.
All right.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, you have a week to
Let's hope we have
practice.
more